Hello. Hi. I miss you guys. I hope you're all watching this. I first want to say that this is getting completely out of control, in my opinion. I left my clippers at the in Toke, and I don't have any here, and so didn't plan on getting stuck here. Didn't intend to get stuck here, but here I am. Anyway, I'm going to read Brian's Winter, chapters 10 and 11, the ones I want you to read, but I also want you to listen to me read it first. So listen to me read it first before you then read it out. Now, I don't expect you to read it all at once to somebody. You can take it in bits and pieces, or if you want, you can read it all at once. It's your choice. A great weight, something heavy on him. His mother was calling for him to come back. He was little again, a small boy playing outside. His mother was calling for him to come inside, but he couldn't move because there was a huge weight on him, holding him down, keeping him from coming home. Brian opened his eyes slowly, closed them again against the brightness and the pain in his forehead, then opened them again. It was, he thought, the same world. Snow all around, bright sun. He was breathing and pounding pain in his forehead. It reminded him of the plane crash, and he had what appeared to be an entire cow moose in his lap. He twitched and looked down at her, his eyes still mad, and her head plowed against his cheek. But he realized she was dead. He started to examine his own situation. Nothing seemed to be broken. He could not at first believe this, and moved his arms and legs several times to make certain. Then squirmed away out from beneath the moose. She was laying half on him, her head on his chest, pushing back, and when he stood, it was the first time he had gotten a long look at how big she was. From nose to back end, he guessed a good 8 or 9 feet, maybe more. He paced her off and then came up with 4 paces in length, counting her legs, which were sticking out a bit. Maybe 10 feet. She was taller at the shoulders. She was taller at the shoulder than he stood. He wondered for a moment if she was the same moose that had attacked him earlier in the summer, and tried to feel that she was. Tried to feel to some animosity towards her, but the truth was that killing her made him sad, elated and sad all at once, as he had been when the wolf killed Doe. She was ugly and beautiful at the same. Sorry about that. She was ugly and beautiful at the same time, lying there in the snow, blood from chest wounds smeared where she lay. An ugly, beautiful animal, and she was ended now. He had killed her, ended her life so that he could live, and he felt as bad as he felt good. He turned away for a moment, shook his head, and then turned back. There was much work to do, and for a moment he thought it would be impossible. It was perhaps half a mile back to camp, and there were absolutely no way he would be able to drag her. He tried lifting her back leg, and it was all he could do to get it off the ground. Dragging her would be simply impossible. She must weigh 6 or 700 pounds. He would have to cut her up and take her back to camp in pieces, and that nearly stopped him. Turning the page. How, he thought, could he cut a moose up? Never in all his life had he ever thought about cutting a moose to pieces. Where did he start? There were no dotted lines the way they were in a diagram at the meat market. He thought for a full 5 minutes, looking at her lying there, and finally realized he could do nothing until she was skinned. He used his knife to slit the hide from the neck, down the chest and belly to the back end. He had to cut around the lance, which had broken off after diving into her, and the arrow shaft still sticking out because they wouldn't pull free. The skin came away harder than with the doe, was thicker, and had to be cut loose as he skinned, peeling it back a half inch at a time along her body. When he cut along the belly, the knife slipped and cut the membrane holding the stomach in, and her guts fell out at his feet, steaming. And he went ahead and pulled them the rest of the way out, amazed at how much there was inside of her. The liver weighed more than 2 rabbits, and he set it aside to cook later. With guts out of her, she was much easier to move, still very hard, but much easier. He quickly developed a rhythm for skinning. Pull on the hide, slide the knife along, pull, slide, pull, slide, pull, slide. In half an hour, he had lifted the hide completely off the right side, cutting it around the neck, just under her head, and folded it back, completely exposing her right side. He had never, even in a butcher shop, seen so much meat in one place. She was a house of meat. Again, he lifted the back leg and couldn't move her, even with the guts out. But as he lifted the leg, he noted that there seemed to be a seam where the leg joined the body, a junction, and he put the knife there and cut, and the leg lifted away from his body. He kept lifting and cutting all around the top of the back leg, pushed as he did so until they were joined only at the hip socket, which rotates freely. He cut around the socket with a knife and popped it loose. The leg lifted completely away. Just that, her back leg was heavier than the doe, and he realized it would be harder to get the back leg to the shelter. This would be a long job. He decided to pull the leg back and returned to finish an all-night job, and it would be cold. He took off with the leg and used nearly 2 minutes to pull it off the shelter. He was almost exhausted when he got there. He stored it along the wall and went back to where the body of the cow lay. It was now midday and he was starving. He took 15 minutes to gather wood and started a fire near the carcass, and when it was blazing, he cut off a strip of meat from the rump near where he'd lifted the leg off and hung it over a stick, so that it was nearly in flames. He went back to cutting and skinning while it cooked. He cut away the right front shoulder and lifted it off much the same way as the rear leg, and the shoulder blade cutting away, and then the leg, and he dragged it back to camp. And turning the page again, when he returned, the meat on the stick was perfect, burned a little on the outside, cooked clear through. He cut the pieces off and ate, standing there, looking down at the rest of the cow. He thought he'd never tasted meat so good, and it was better than the deer or rabbit or fool birds, better than beef. And there was fat on it, more fat than the doe. And he craved fat, ate one piece of fat alone that was hanging on the side of the meat, and cooked separately and still carved it. He cut 2 large pieces of fat off the carcass and hung them over the fire to cook while he went back to work. With the right legs gone, she was lighter, and by lifting the legs on the ground, he found that he could roll her over to get at the uncompleted side. Once she was over, he skinned the side that had been done. I'm gonna start that whole thing again. Sometimes it just goes crazy on you. Once she was over, he skinned the side as he done the first one, working up the back after cutting around the leg until the hide was completely free of the carcass. Then he cut the leg loose, dragged them one at a time back to camp, and returned to the body of the moose in the darkness. Finding his way was no problem because there was a half moon and it lighted the snow into something close to daylight. But the cold came now, and he had no gloves. His hands chilled as he worked on the damp meat, and he had to warm them over the fire often, which slowed him. And by midnight everything seemed to stop. But the cow was a treasure of food, and the hide but the cow was a treasure of food, and the hide, and he wasn't about to leave her for the wolves or a bear if it came along. So he kept working. With the legs and rump gone, the remaining part of the carcass wasn't too hard to handle. He used the hatchet to chop through the spine in 2 places and separated the back, middle, and front end, and it amazed him how much all animals were alike. She was immense, but the cow was almost built like a rabbit, with the same basic layout. The same design, he thought, grinning, and suppose if he were on all fours, he would look the same. He cut her head away with the hatchet and dragged the front section of her body, the rib cage and the hump meat, onto her shoulders, on the hump meat on top of her shoulders with it, back to the camp, and then the rear end and center at the same time. That left only the hide and the head. The head he could come back for tomorrow, and he set off with the hide at probably 4 in the morning. It was the worst. It was staggeringly heavy. He couldn't lift it, and dragging it back to camp with his bow and his arrows on top of it exhausted him. At the camp, he looked at the pile of meat and the hide next to his shelter wall, smiled once, shucked out of the rabbit skin shirt, crawled into the bag, and was in a deep, dreamless sleep in seconds. No, he thought. His brain was closing down. A great day, a meat day, a moose day. He could sketch it on the shelter wall tomorrow. Okay, so we're already at 12 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and I will make a different video with the next chapter.